everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Let's Chat Reality. I'm Molly,
I'm Michael.
and today we're going to be discussing Big Brother season 28, episodes 7 through 10. Lots that happened this past week, so excited to get through it all. But before we do, Michael, how are you feeling now about the season as we are a few weeks into it?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good still. I think we are on the track of a potential just one alliance dominating the whole season, steamrolling it, but it's still early. So, I still have a lot of hope that eventually somebody from the other side of the house will win an HOH, gain some power, even just win a veto and shake up the plans for the dominant alliance. Like, we haven't quite had that yet, but I think there's still so much happening. There's still a lot of drama. So it gives me hope that we will not have another BB28 on our hands. We'll see what happens. But right now, I'm still enjoying it very much.
Yeah, I agree. As we all know, we have the icons there as well. I think helping with steering a lot of that strategy talk and that side of the house that's had the control. So it'll be interesting to see if someone from the other side wins HOH and puts up someone. If I mean, I'm not excited for this to happen, but when it does happen, like stir things up that maybe someone from the BB from either from Angela or Survivor players gets put up that hasn't happened yet. So we'll have to see what happens with that. Right now, I'm happy that they're not in the hot seat.
Yeah, look, I'm rooting for them still, of course. I love the icons, but I want them to not just steamroll to the end. I want them to have to face adversity, to be nominated, to have to fight their way from the bottom to get there. I think it's so much more rewarding, it's so much more entertaining. And so, yeah, am I glad that they're not going to be one of the first 3 evicted this season? Yeah, of course, but I hope that at some point, week 4, week 5, I want to see 1 or 2 of them nominated. I want them to win a power veto and save themselves. Like, I just think that we'll be so much happier at the end if they had to fight their way to get there versus just their alliance winning the whole every competition the whole season, and we never had to worry about them for a single day.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll have to see what happens the rest of the season with that. But let's get into what happened last week. So we pick up on Wednesday's episode during the nomination ceremony, which we saw a little bit of the preview of that, the Sunday night episode, knowing we would see the full thing Wednesday. Well, we didn't know we'd get the full thing, but we did get the full thing on the episode. So we got to see Angela and Jason fight, and specifically Angela calls Jason out for trying to emotionally manipulate her, and it was the egg fight of it all, because Angela was still in her egg detective costume. So what do you think about that and seeing the fight air on national television?
Yeah, I was happily surprised by how much of it they did show. The one part they did not show was Haley telling Rome that he had small balls.
Yeah.
That
They
was
kept in
left
the
off.
most important parts, obviously.
Yes. Although that would have been very fun to see on TV, but I understand why at 7 p.m. CBS couldn't air that. But I very much enjoyed seeing the whole fight. And basically, where they picked up was what we saw on feeds. But I just always get so much joy out of like watching something live as it happened on the feeds and then seeing it on TV. And this was a prime example of that, where it's just like a moment that you wait to see how it's going to be edited with all the music and the DRs and everything. And I thought they did a very good job with showing it very accurately as it happened. And of course, the Eggula of it all was fantastic.
Oh yeah, I agree. I didn't get to see all of it happen live when it did happen exactly like in the live feed, so I was excited to see it in entirety coming on the TV show. So that was fun to see it all, and definitely did not disappoint the fighting and all the drama that came from that.
Yeah, and look, we've talked about Jason and our feelings on what he did there. I've been seeing a lot of comments about, well, Johnny Fairplay did this on Survivor, and Matt Hoffman did this on BB12, where he pretended like his wife back home had some disease that she did not have. I think the difference is that Jason's mom really has passed away. He really is, gay and connected with Angela over that. And I do think a lot of that was very genuine on his part. I think where it feels a little bit icky, of course, is just that it's something so real that he is using. Whereas in the cases of the other two examples that I mentioned, they were just completely pretend. And
Mhm.
whether to say that's better, it's worse, I think is very debatable. I don't think that Jason is a bad person for doing this at all, and I still am rooting for him not to be evicted this week because I think that he brings so much to this season. I don't love what he did here still, and I will stand by that. I just don't think that he deserves hate in the real world when he gets back home for it, and I think that all is fair in Love and BB.
Yeah, and I mean, we also see them kind of make up in the fight itself, like at the end of it, like in a way of like it
Yeah.
kind of seems that they kind of dissolved this, not dissolved it, but like Jason did feel bad the way that it came across, and he didn't necessarily intend for it to be so malicious in that way. So I think with that, like if Angela can forgive him, then America should forgive him too.
It's like we said with Anaya and KC. Like I
Yeah.
can't be more mad at KC than Anaya is. When she forgave him, it was like, okay, I guess we need to all move on as well, And I think the kind of the same thing here. Angela clearly has forgiven him. Let's move on.
Yes, exactly. But in the nomination ceremony, Devens did nominate Melody, Lyric, and Jason with the intention of backdooring Rome. So that was his plan going into it. So that's how the nomination started. What did you think about those choices for Devens?
Yeah, I think that it was the right move.
Yeah.
Rome is clearly a strong competitor. It would have been giving him another shot to win another competition and save himself. And, why risk that? So I think that it was the right move to not allow him to, or, he could have still been chosen, but to lessen the chances that he got that extra chance to save himself. And it worked.
Yeah. I know looking back on this, I'm like, well, the plan did execute. But in this
Yeah,
moment, we
and that's
didn't know
why I'm
yet.
saying it would have been so much more fun if like Rome had been picked for veto and won the veto, took down Lyric, and now we have so many more Jason wins blockbuster, and then it's like, oh my gosh, all of the targets got to say like that's where BB is more fun when the the dominant alliance, even when it's our favorites, doesn't always get their way. This week would have been more fun, but it is what it is.
Yeah, for sure. But our favorites are still there, so that's what counts. Um,
Exactly.
but then also in this nomination ceremony, Lala gets emotional after hearing that she wasn't on Rome's boiled down list of people that he asked Devens to save this week. So there was all the fighting happening, and Lala on the side is bawling her eyes out. And then afterwards, Rome cries and apologizes to her. So there was lots of drama that was happening here. Do you think it was in Lala's right to get this emotional over this?
Yeah, it was interesting when the feeds did come back and we saw Lala crying, and then you look at the nomination board, it's like she's not on there. Why is she crying so much? And then as we see it on TV, because that part wasn't aired, it comes out that that was discussed the fact that Lala was not on the boiled down list that Rome gave to Devens, and I completely understand that. I think that it sucks to find out that you were more expendable to somebody who you trusted so much than three other people, and or really I guess two because Rome himself was one of the people. But it's an eye opening fact to learn, I would think, for Lala.
Mhm.
And I don't think that it means that she can't trust Rome because, okay, you're not his number one or number two, but until we get a lot later down the line, that really doesn't matter. As long as he's not going to nominate you if he wins HOH, like, then he's still a good ally to have for the time being. So, but I think it's just maybe it's a good, like, mental note for her to not forget.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think all of the emotions were heightened in the house this week, it seemed like. But I think in that sense, like Lala felt safe with Rome, and then her hearing that she actually wasn't on his safe list, just like put into her perspective that okay, maybe she should find some new people to work with that she can trust that will not want to put her up like that. So, or not that he was going to put her up, but just not keep her safe as much as other people. But yeah, I think, I mean, it makes sense that she felt that way. And at least Rome did apologize to her, so they were able to squash that pretty
I
quickly
love
at
that
that point.
moment. I thought that
Yeah.
was a really nice moment that they had where you could tell how genuinely bad Rome felt about that. And
Yeah.
I think that's where like Rome has surprised me as a player this season, that I really never expected him to be so closely aligned with someone like Lala. You just kind of see Rome in the preseason interviews and assume, oh, he's going to be in some all guys alliance and just bro out with all the men, and it really didn't turn out that way at all. And I don't know if Rome had gotten further in the season. I think that maybe the goodwill towards him would have diminished a little bit. I could see that for sure. But so I think maybe he went out at a good time for his just like reception
Perception.
from America.
Yeah.
But I loved this moment, and I thought it was a really nice apology and a good moment on both ends.
I agree. It was good to see that happen. But then for the veto comp, Angela and Barrett are picked to play, and as well as Devens as HOH and the nominees. So then we see Devin win this. What did you think about that? And were you surprised to see Devens win?
No, not surprised. I mean, I guess I don't think of Devens as like a comp beast by any
Yeah.
means from Survivor, but I don't love when the HOH wins the veto. I almost, and I could be convinced against this. I almost wonder if it would be more interesting if the HOH didn't get to compete in the veto. If it was
Yeah.
just the nominees and three other people, and it would diminish the power of the HOH a little bit, but I think it would maybe a little bit guarantee more unpredictable outcomes, because at least you're not giving the same person both powers during the week. But
Yeah.
it was we knew what was going to happen as soon as really we knew what was going to happen as soon as Rome wasn't picked for the veto. But we
Yeah.
really knew what it was going to happen once Devin won, which look, I mean, like, I was happy because I am rooting for Devins, but I was also like a little bit bummed that it was going to be a more predictable week.
Yeah, and it was a really close one with Jason almost getting the puzzle buzzed in before Devens, but Devens beat him out by like a second. It looked like on the editing. I don't know exactly what the difference was, but also we know, I don't know if this is, I mean, if it's true, it probably is true. We heard it from Taryn, so I believe it's true, but that Jason actually finished the puzzle earlier, but then didn't press his button. Is that right?
So that is what they were saying. It
Yeah.
didn't seem that way from the
Yeah.
edited episode, so I don't know if maybe Jason like was exaggerating a little bit or misremembered it. That is what they were saying though, so it is very
Okay.
possible that that is the case, and that just wasn't relayed correctly on TV.
Okay. Yeah. But I mean, in the end, Devin still won it. And I mean, spoiler or not spoiler, but like looking ahead, Jason did take himself off from the blockbuster. So didn't feel so bad that he got sent home because, or he didn't get sent home because he did lose that. So at least that's a little bit of the cherry on top of that.
Yeah, that would have been a kind of crazy way to go out, is if that little moment would have been the difference between him staying and leaving this week. So I'm glad that wasn't the case.
Yeah. But then still Devins has to choose who he was gonna take down in place of that. So of whoever he wanted to then put Rome up. But Rome and Lyra catch a plan to pretend to be broken up in an effort to then make people think that they're not working together anymore. So then Lyric can have the veto used on her instead of using it on Melody, so that only one of Lime will be on the block instead of both of them. So, what do you think about this plan for them to be fake broken up?
I mean, when they first mentioned it, I was like, that is never going to work in a million years because we've never seen a couple break up on Big Brother before. Like, how awkward would that be? For the entire next 70 days, they're just going to have to live in the house, this tiny house together, broken up. Like, at least on Love Island, you're gonna probably find someone else, or you're gonna like they're gonna find someone else, or you're gonna be distracted. But here it's like you're cooped up inside with that person for so long, and neither of you were probably going to like move on to another showmance. Although maybe Lyric would, I don't know, but I I did not expect it to work as well as it did, and I think that's a huge kudos, especially to Lyric, who put in a lot of that work and having those conversations and making Devens, even if he didn't really fully believe it, it worked well enough. And I think that just the perception of Lyric, it seems like, to the rest of the house is that she's too innocent and like she can't lie. And I think that just them having that perception of her just made them fully believe what she was telling them. And to me, if now, once Rome leaves, he professes his love to Lyric, like it's so clear that this whole thing was a lie, and Rome admits to Devin that it was a lie. I would really be looking at Lyric at that point and being like, wow, I really underestimated her ability to manipulate me and to convince me of what she's saying. That would really make me look at her a whole different way, but it really doesn't seem like that's happening.
I know. That's what I would think too, but they're just, I guess, taking in everything she's saying as truth, which is crazy. Or, I mean, now, no, they don't think that. But obviously, like in the moment, like they did think that she was telling the truth and that they were broken up. So she was good at convincing them then. So then you would think that they would be cautious of thinking, okay, like she convinced us this time. Like, what can she convince us of next time? So we'll
Yeah,
have to see.
exactly.
Yeah. But I mean, it did end up working. But Lyric tells Devens also that she wants to use the veto. She wants him to use the veto on her to nominate Rome in her place. And Devens does believe Lyric and thinks that he may be able to salvage his relationship with both Lyric and Rome by doing this to protect himself if they both stay in the house, because Lyric also is promising him safety of not being put up and all of that, which you never know is going to be totally true or not. But I think as a whole, like it was very trusting of Devins to do this, which I mean, it ended up being okay for him because Rome did go home. But I think had it not, like it would have been not so good next week for him.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't agree with Devin's thinking here. Like, I think that for whatever reason, he was very afraid that Rome was going to win Blockbuster. And personally, like, I was more, would have really believed in Jason to win it against anyone, just because we've seen Jason win the first competition on premiere night at least. Rome hasn't won anything yet. So or no, sorry, Rome did also win a
Yeah.
competition that day. I'm wrong about that. But, at least like Jason has pretty good odds of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So I really think, though, that for whatever reason, Devens just was fully convinced that Rome was going to win and wanted to give himself the best chance to not be in his crossfire if he were to stay in the house and win HOH. And I think that scenario just kept going through his mind, probably as a very likely possibility, and wanted to at least do this gesture of taking Lyric off the block instead of Melody, so that if Rome were to stay and win HOH, at least Devens could say, hey, yes, I was targeting you, like, but I didn't go after both of you. I at least, I showed you this gesture of goodwill so that maybe there's a chance he could escape the block.
Yeah, I know he was really grasping on the straws there. It seemed like, though, from our perspective, like maybe in the house, obviously he's thinking differently and like really believed what they were saying to him. So with that, like he just has to go with his gut. But I also was like, yeah, I don't know why he's believing everything that they're saying to him.
And it actually, you know what I'll say? I was also surprised watching the episode at how much it did seem like Rome was being genuine about like
Yeah.
he liked Devens. And I think there maybe was actually a good chance that he wouldn't have done that next week. In all reality, I am just surprised on both sides. I'm surprised that Rome would actually maybe follow through with it, and I was surprised that Devens would potentially believe that he would follow through with it. Like I think on both ends they shouldn't have. But it seemed like maybe there was just a good enough relationship and enough respect there that they're like, yeah, you took a shot and I respect it.
Yep, while they're playing cornhole together, they bonded in that.
Or bags, as they call it.
The
I don't know
bags.
why.
Yeah, it's called both, but it
I've
depends
never
on where
heard
you're
bags
from.
before.
I've heard it, but I think
Oh,
it's
okay.
more
Is that like a
regional. Yeah.
northern thing or like
Yeah,
a.
I think
Okay.
so. We'll look at exactly where people call bags, but not that relevant. But I think, yeah, I mean, as a whole, like Devens was swayed by that because then he did take Lyric off the block and replaces her with Rome. So here we have it now is Rome is up on the block next to Melody and Jason. So what did you think about that? I mean, obviously we knew it was probably happening, but what do you think about now that it happened in that moment that he took Lyric down?
Yeah, I mean, in the moment, I thought, okay, it's probably pretty set in stone that Rome's going home if he stays on the block. But I was interested in the Jason versus Melody matchup if Rome were to win Blockbuster because it seemed like Jason would have likely gone home at that time, but I thought that there was a pretty good chance that there might have been a, a plan that Melody maybe would go home in that scenario because it seemed like that's what Dee and Angela really would have preferred, or at least like had talked about the fact that they really don't trust Melody and they wanted to. And we'll actually get to this a little bit later, but it is shown in the episode, but that Drew's relationship to Melody scared them a lot. So I was interested at that time to see like how much steam that would get, but it never really materialized.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I feel like as a whole, like it just seemed like if Rome didn't win Blockbuster, that he was gonna go home, and then if he had, then yeah, it would have been a little bit more nuanced there, of understanding of who actually would go home. But I still think it probably would have been Jason, even if
It
they
would
didn't
have been
win that.
100% by
Yeah,
Thursday, yeah.
yeah. But then yeah, Dee and Angela start to get suspicious of Drew playing both sides of the house, and then this makes Dee float the idea of taking Melody out since Drew was so close to her, as you just mentioned, that Dee was kind of suspicious of Drew and Melody there, so she would have been happy to see Melody go. So what did you think about their suspicions of Drew?
Yeah, I mean it's so interesting because their paranoia is really getting the better of them with Drew, and Drew was completely loyal to them, especially like yeah, he and Barrett both have they talk about this how they don't really feel connected to the red corner side of the Toolshed Alliance, especially because like they Barrett was the last one brought in originally with that. He was the last one when they had the middle of the night thing. He was also the last one brought in there. So I think in both ends he kind of knows like I've been brought into both of these like the last one, and that's usually going to be the first person expendable. So he knows that, and Drew I think is kind of feeling what he really was loyal to them. I think he just doesn't like the red corner side of like he just doesn't like those people, the Haley and Camus and Chucks, and doesn't want to play with them. And but he was always been very loyal to the icons, and I think the icons don't feel that way about him, and they've convinced themselves the paranoia is just that Drew's playing both sides of the house, and he really wasn't. He was telling all the information to them, but they just didn't feel that. They didn't believe it. And they, I think, felt like he was going to be playing them and they wanted to get him first before he could get them. And so I think that paranoia has like basically turned into reality. And it really hasn't yet that Drew is still very loyal to them, but I think that they are so convinced at this point in real time that they're ready to strike now at Drew.
Yeah, I know, which is sad to see because I wanted them all to be working together. But Paranoia just happens. But yeah, so what do you think about if Drew or Barrett gets power? Do you think that they would put up one of the icons?
No, they would
No.
not put up one of the icons. I think
Yeah.
that they would. No, I think at this point it might still be too early for them directly to target Red Corner either. I think that if somebody from the other side of the house were to win HOH, they would really, really heavily try to get them to target someone in the red corner, but keep the icon safe.
Yeah, that makes sense. I agree with that. But then when we get to the blockbuster, we see Jason wins that, leaving Melody and Rome up on the block. So here, that's what I was hoping to see. I was hoping that Jason would win, so that would be an easy vote to get Rome out. So what did you think about that?
Yeah, I was shocked at how quickly Jason did it. It was like I feel like I looked down for 1 second and Jason was done. It was kind of crazy that
Yeah.
he was just light years ahead of Melody and Rome, and so it was no contest. And I think if I were to have put money on anyone to win this, it probably would have been Jason. So not
Yeah.
shocked.
Yeah, when I saw it was kind of puzzle related and I knew how close Jason was to the last puzzle, I had faith
Yeah,
that he could pull this one out. And I
exactly.
heard in some of the exit or when Rome left, I think it might have been like right in the episode when he said he just like got a wrong start to a couple of the
Hmm.
pieces and then I kind of set him back. So that made sense. Like it could have been closer had that not happened, but it still felt like Jason had it from the beginning.
I don't think as quickly as he Rome would have been able to do it. I don't see a world where Jason doesn't win that.
Yeah.
He just did everything right.
Agreed. I was like, okay, he's the example of how to figure out this in game settings because I'm like, oh, I always see those ads of the online versions of that of like segmenting
Oh
that. Like
yeah, yeah,
now, I
yeah.
guess I could practice if I ever go on Big Brother. Then I'll have that
Look,
down.
I think Jason is the Tucker and the Kelly Jorgensen of the blockbusters this season. He's just going to
Yeah.
be that one who's constantly on the block and having to win them. And I'll be very curious. I mean, we'll get to it, but it seems like he's going to be competing in another one this week, so we'll see what happens.
Yes, but as we discussed, Rome is evicted and he's sent home with a vote of 12-1, so it was not unanimous. And that one vote to keep him was actually not even Lyric, it was Taylor. She voted for Melody. So, what did you think about that?
I was shocked. I mean, Taylor was the first vote, and so when she
Yeah.
voted for Melody, I was like, "What happened in the last 10 minutes?" But no, she just basically thought that that Rome deserved to not go home unanimously, and that she liked Rome and she wanted him to have a vote. It doesn't even seem like she was trying to do it with the intention of like pinning it on anyone, like you would
Yeah.
normally would if you were gonna do throw a rogue vote out there but not cop to it. Usually that's for game purposes, but it really didn't seem like it was. But I was glad it happened. At least gave us a little bit of intrigue and to see like is she going to own up to it? Is she going to try to pin it on Lyric or someone else? But she didn't. She kind of didn't do either.
Yeah.
But I thought it was very interesting because then Lyric, we saw at the end of the episode, just went up to everybody denying it, just saying it wasn't me, it wasn't
Uh,
me. And I felt like people would believe her just because, again, people believe their breakup. So it seemed like people just kind of believe Lyric, whatever she says. So it seemed like that would not get pinned on her.
yeah. I mean, it's a good hypothesis to think that it would have been Lyric. So her then denying it right away, I think, was good on her part. But yeah, it's interesting that Taylor just didn't own up to it and just kept quiet about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good move because
Yeah.
it's a very easy reason to target somebody if they were the one vote against the person who went home. And especially if you were on the other side of the house, like our eventual HOH Kamu was. I think if somebody from Taylor's side of the house had won HOH, then maybe she would could have felt more comfortable to own up to it because there's no reason to nominate her. But with Kamu being HOH, yeah, better to just zip it and not say anything and not give Kamu a very easy reason to pick a third nominee.
Yeah. I agree with that. And then seeing Rome's reaction also to having it be that it was Taylor and not Lyric really surprised him. But
Oh my
I mean,
god.
he was like, oh, at
Yeah.
least she was loyal.
Well, and Julie, like, when Julie asked him, he was like, "Well, I'm pretty sure I have a good idea," as if it was like a joke. And then you're like, "Nope." I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I know, but he respected it because he was like, "Well, yeah, it's not good to go against the house." So he was still in the gameplay of it. He still loves her, at least to our knowledge,
Yeah,
even
and
if
I
if
was
she didn't
proud
vote.
of Lyric for not voting for, because I feel like most
Yeah,
showmances don't do that, but I think it was good for her game, and I think it would have been really best for her game if Rome hadn't then expressed his love for her, because then that really did for anybody who may have believed to some extent that breakup, or at least the fact that maybe Lyric wasn't, was kind of distancing herself a bit. Then I think it would have been better for her not to have to then go around saying, "Oh, I don't feel the way that as strongly as Rome felt when he expressed his love, and it was only a few couple weeks," and blah blah blah. Like, I think she would have had to do a little bit less of that if Rome had maybe not done that. But I get
yeah. We'll have to see what happens to them if they stay together on the outside or not. But I mean, she's still in the house, so
Do
she's
you
still
think he's going
playing
to
big.
propose on finale night?
I don't know. I think they have to live together, like in the outside world, or at least be together in the outside world.
Look at Swaggy seeing Bailey on season 20. Swaggy
Yeah.
proposed. He was the second one voted off. Bailey was in jury. They hadn't seen each other that whole time, and they're still together today.
So it could happen.
It
Faster
could.
relationship than Bachelor Nation, but could happen.
It's not saying much.
I know. We'll have to see with that. But then we had a Big Brother Unlocked episode on Friday night, which was my favorite one of the season so far. It was a great BB Unlocked where we got some exciting shout outs for our HAP, but then also got to see the formation of two side alliances, the Handyman and the Honor Society. So, what did you think about seeing these segments and also hearing the shout outs, obviously, for our favorite podcasters?
Yeah, I mean, well, not only it was a shout out for to Rob, because they showed
Yeah.
his video where it was it's funny because people are probably like, why did he even make this video? It was an ad for Summer of Stein, which is back this season on RHAP, where he talks every week with Eric Stein from BB8. And yeah, he was impersonating Yosh's daily routine video that he posted on TikTok before going in the house. And so there was a shout out for Rob, RHAP, Taryn Armstrong, and not to mention the night before that, during Dee's vote, she did her shout out to our good friend Brandon Donlin. So it was 3 shout outs in the span of 24 hours for our friends, which was so exciting to see. And I think they all deserve all that recognition and all the love that they're getting since then. So I was so happy to hear that. But also, I loved seeing this segment. I think that this is exactly what BB Unlocked should be for, showing us two side alliances that aren't huge to the story of the show yet, because there are other more important main alliances. But this gives us more context that then they can bring up on the show, where Kamu wins HOH and Drew says, "Yeah, I'm happy about this because he is in the Handyman Alliance with me." That would not have been able to, or we would have maybe seen like a flashback to it afterwards, but this builds that story in a more organic way and gives us some really important game context that we wouldn't have gotten otherwise. And I think this is a great way to use BB Unlocked instead of showing us their draft that nobody cares about.
Yeah, I agree. I think this was good and shows like we're getting actual kind of not exclusive, but like parts that we're not seeing in the episode that are aired in BB Unlocked, which is kind of an extension to now the week of episodes because before it seemed like BB Unlocked was kind of just there and didn't really have much purpose, but now it does seem like there's a purpose to it, which is exciting that they're iterating on it and taking feedback and all that. And the other thing we got to see, which was exciting, that we got to be revealed all of the powers and punishments that will be available over the next 5 weeks in the house. And the house guests don't even know these. So we get inside scoop of things that they don't even know, which is exciting as well.
Yeah, I loved this because I mean, I talked about it last week that I thought, okay, the way that they're doing this with the time capsule seems very convenient, that it's not a competition. So it seems very easy for them to just kind of rig it however they see fit, whether they want to give somebody a power or a punishment, and what power or punishment they want to give them. And I liked that they at least showed us what all the options are, showed us what is behind each number, so that at least we know that they're not deciding after knowing, okay, Angela won power 3. Now we're going to decide what power 3 is, depending on what we want to give to Angela. So I was glad to know that it's always going to be the same thing behind the same number. And also, I mean, and I trust this, that Rob said he heard from a good source that it is all over the, what is that expression? Where it's like I don't know, it's all fair and not rigged. And
Okay.
what is that? I'm trying to
Wait,
think of what
now
that
I don't know
expression is.
what
I
you're
can't
saying.
remember.
Yeah. I'm
Whatever,
like,
it
what?
doesn't matter.
It's all fair and love and
Sure,
war.
that's not what I was thinking of, but that works too. uh
I don't think that's exactly what you're thinking, but
No, I don't know what I'm thinking, but I was glad to know that, from somebody who Rob deems to be reliable, I trust that, and it makes me feel better about it. So even though this week the power that Devens was given is way OP, at least I know that he got it fair and square.
yes. So I'll just quickly read through all those powers and punishments. I don't know, remember exactly what each of them entail right
I can
now,
tell you,
but
I
okay.
remember what they all are,
Okay, so we
because they're all
have
things we've seen before.
replay, which is people they get HOH back to back.
Yes.
Then the mystery competitor. Which one is the
So that's what Casey did last season, if you remember, where somebody, a BB alum who's known to be very good
yes.
at competitions, gets to compete in your place, or maybe along with you. I can't remember what Keanu, if
I think
Keanu
it
was
was an
also
additional
competing. I think he
person.
was also.
Yeah.
Um, so it basically gives doubles your chances to win, and gives you somebody who is very good at competitions on your side.
Yes. And then we have the never not pass.
Yes, so you do not have to ever be a have not the rest of the season.
Yep. Pretty good one. BB bribe.
So that is where, if you're, I believe it will work like Zach's did last season, where he gets 20, was it 20K or something like that, that,
Yeah.
any sane person would use, right? There's no chance that that's not going to get used because it's a forced bribe to save yourself from going on the block. I can't imagine anyone would go home with that in their pocket and decide not to use it and risk going home and then going home.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting. I thought they said it was like 5K, but maybe it's more. But
I
I don't know.
remember it being more than that with Zach, right? I feel like it was more than
Yeah. Yeah,
5K, but
maybe
maybe
it
I'm
was like
wrong. Or maybe
10K.
I
I
can't
think it
remember if
was
they said it.
10K.
Maybe it was 10K.
Yeah. But we'll have to see when that comes into
I
play.
don't know. Check Zach's bank account because he still has.
Oh, true. And then the Diamond POV, which is what Devens just won, which means that he can use the POV even if he's not chosen to play in Power Veto. He can use it anytime for him or someone else in the next 6 weeks, which
Well,
is
not
powerful.
only that, but he not only gets to take himself or somebody off the block, but then he gets to choose the replacement
Oh,
nominee. And that's the
yeah.
big difference between the Golden Power Veto and the Diamond Power Veto.
Yes, Diamond is more powerful there. And then the Coin of Destiny.
Or as Julie Chen called it in BB28, the Queen of Destiny. 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 Yeah, so this is what Claire had on BB23, where she secretly gets to flip a coin, and if it lands on one side, then she gets to overthrow the HOH and become HOH for that week.
Yes, so those are all the powers. And then for the punishments, we have a lot of these are costumes: the Lord of the Latrine, Amazon, Camp Guide, Adam and Eve, and the Red Unitard.
Yeah. Basically, no game punishments, really, just kind of more fun, costumey things like that. So,
And Amazon is eat
all
ham, which I would not do that one. I can't eat ham.
well, Fessy won that, and he does not also
Oh,
eat ham, and so they gave him like some meat
turkey.
alternative. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Any standouts there of the powers and punishments for you?
I mean, the red unitard is a classic. Very happy to see that back. Adam and Eve is can be very fun if, depending on the two people who are picked to be tied together. It was fun in BB16 because it was Victoria and Caleb who do not get along. So, looking forward to seeing who that would be if that ends up coming up on the list. And Lord of the Latrine was very fun with Derek X, but I could also maybe see that not being quite as successful if depending on who it is. But I think they're all decent punishments. I just think that the one that I have a problem that we will talk about is the Diamond POV. It's the only one in this whole punishments and powers that I have a little bit of an issue with.
Yes, we'll get to that in a little bit. But then we just had Sunday night's episode, so we see that Kamu wins HOH, and that was like a competition where he answered questions about the WrestleGasm featuring Jesse Goddard from BB10 and BB11. So it's good to see that competition. Any thoughts overall?
No, I mean it's a classic. How much can you remember from this thing you just watched? Not surprised to see Jesse Goddard make an appearance this season. I think with all the celebration of the 1000th episode, we're seeing a lot of previous faces. Fully expected one of those to be Jesse.
Yeah. Agreed. So then we get to hearing about his initial thoughts for who he wants to nominate, and his plans are Jason, Mallory, and Lala. So were you surprised by this, or what did you think as a whole on his choices?
No, I was not surprised that Jason and Mallory in particular were people that he was suggesting, and it seemed like those were the two that he was most set on, and then he was kind of trying to come up with a third and decided on Lala pretty quickly there. But we'll talk about later that that is not what the three nominees quite end up being.
Yes, exactly. And then we see Angela thinking that Drew did the rogue vote for Melody. Her paranoia is continuing. So, what did you think about that?
Not surprised that Angela and Dee and I mean Devens too to a certain degree, but it's really mostly Angela and Dee that are just every possible thing that you could blame on somebody, they're going to blame on Drew at this point, and they're just convincing themselves, hyping each other up, and I just think that, and I thought from the very beginning that this might end up being the case, that I think Angela's paranoia has just really rubbed off on Dee, and I think that if she could just kind of separate a little bit from Angela and not talk to her as much, I think that Dee's paranoia would just go down and she would be able to see things a little bit more clearly. But being so closely aligned to Angela can do that to you.
I know. We'll just have to see if they continue that paranoia on Drew or it can settle at some point. But as of now, it's not stopping.
Yeah, I think it would just take Drew winning an HOH and
Yeah.
fully doing whatever plan they come up with as a group. I think that that would maybe just make them a little bit trust him more. But
Yeah.
even then, I could see a world where they find a way to convince themselves that he's still working both sides of the house. So, they could have the proof right in front of them. They could watch the TV show at this point and not be fully convinced.
I know. So, I mean, at least it's giving some good TV. But then we see then Kamu talks with Mallory and she shares who she would target if she was HOH. And she mentions Jason since she knows he's likely targeting him. And then also Devens and Dee since they're likely to win powers as being big, obviously, names already in the reality universe so that their fans would vote for them. But obviously, Kamu is working with Devens and D, so he was never going to put them up. But what do you think about this conversation here with Mallory?
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's probably never great to list names. I think we
Yeah,
learned that last week with Rome, that
yeah,
it's dangerous to give any names. And I think maybe just saying Jason would have been good enough. I think that that would have, he's already planning on putting Jason up. And so I think that that name was pretty safe. I think once she said Devens and D, I was like, no, just stop. Like, you don't need to give him that many names. Like, I understand the desire to give him the HOH what he's looking for and answering his question. But I think that giving one name is a good way to just like give just enough, but then not too much to where it can be used against you later on.
Yeah, I agree. Everyone seems to be sharing names too willingly. At least, I mean, not everyone, but Mallory and Rome did. But I think definitely gonna bite her later on because of this. But then Kamu tells Lyric that he has no intentions of putting her on the block. So, what do you think about him telling her that?
Well, I mean, he does have to walk this back later
Yeah.
on, but I think that, yeah, I think it's dangerous to tell somebody that when you're, I get it, like at that point, he really did believe it. I
Mhm.
just think it maybe would have been better to not be so 100% confident about it. Like, just be like, hey, at this point, you're not on like my first choice for this, but like kind of maybe just giving those little caveats of being like, right now I'm not thinking of it being you, or like, I'm still deciding, not 100%, but like you're not my target no matter what, something like that. Just that way, like he maybe didn't have to have that second awkward conversation with her, and she wouldn't think that he was lying to her.
Yeah. I know. It's always awkward having to reel that back. So he could have saved himself a little bit of that trouble by just not promising. I mean, he didn't really promise, but he just said he had no intention. So I guess in a way it was promising, but not entirely.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for if somebody is like your next on your list, which I think it seemed like Lyric was, of the three people who he was nominating, Lyric seemed like she was kind of fourth. I think
Mhm.
maybe you just don't say anything to that person, just in case, because there's always the chance that you could change your mind, or somebody could convince you that maybe it's a better to do slightly different combination, and whoever that like fourth person, just don't say anything to them that you're then going to feel like you need to have another conversation afterwards if you decide to change your mind.
Yeah, for sure. He'll learn his lesson this time, and then hopefully, if he's HOH again,
Look,
won't do
yeah,
it.
it's hard to do your first HOH.
Yeah.
You're not going to do it perfectly. I get that.
Yes. Then we get a little segment of the Melody and Drew kind of showmans, not showmans, but they're
What are we
flirting with
calling
each other.
them? Melodrew or Drewlity?
Drewlity? I don't know. Melodrew? I don't really have feelings on the showman's
Mew?
name.
Are they
Mew?
mewing?
Mew? Mew. I like that one. Delity? I don't know if that's not make sense.
That's too much
Drewlity?
melody, not enough Drew.
Yeah. So maybe it's Mew.
I like
I don't know.
Mew. I
Yeah.
think that's really cute.
Yeah, let's start calling it Mew. So they are flirting with each other, but they say they don't want to be in a showman's. But we'll see what happens with that. But what do you think on their flirtmance right now?
Look, I think that it's good for Drew's chances in particular to potentially win a time capsule, because this is giving him both game content in the show and like showman's personal story, that I think the combination of those two makes me think that his chances of getting the next time capsule are a lot higher than I maybe originally thought. Because I would have, thought, okay, D's next. But I think that Drew is really getting up there in the popularity for both the super fans and the casuals. So I would not be shocked if he wins the next time capsule now.
Yeah, that's a good point. We'll have to see what happens there if Mew continues. How
I
that
don't
evolves.
know if that's going to like become an actual showman's, I will say. I think that it's going to kind of be a very I'm trying to think of a good example of like a not full showman's that we had in the past, but like kind of an always a little bit of a flirty type of thing. I can't think of a great example off the top of my head of that, but I feel like that's kind of going to always be what this is, especially because I think Melody maybe has a guy back home. So I feel like this is going to not necessarily go past like G rated.
Yeah. So we'll see. But TBD on if that actually evolves or not. But then, as we did mention already, that Devens wins the time capsule vote and he gets the Diamond Power of Veto, which allows him to remove the nominee from the block and then pick a replacement nominee, as we already mentioned that as well. So he gets to use this also in the next 6 weeks. So still a while to have this power. I know, Michael, you have your thoughts on it. So we'd love to hear what you think and that it's more powerful than it should be for the game, or overall, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't have a huge problem with the Diamond Power Veto as a power
Mhm.
because the coup d'etat I do have a problem with. That is too powerful. That is where you not only get to take one person off the block and name their replacement, you get to do that with both nominees. I think that's always been too powerful. The Diamond POV at least gives the HOH still two, I guess in this case, two of their nominees. You can take one of them off. I think that is, maybe a little bit more powerful still than I would prefer, but it's not anything like so crazy that it's game breaking. What is crazy is the fact that it goes for 6 weeks. The original Diamond Power Veto only lasted 2 weeks. That
Mhm.
I think was good. That was fine. It is a short amount of time that you can do that, and it doesn't guarantee you to make it to jury in week two, week three. I just think that's kind of crazy that how long this can go for, and that Devens can just tell anyone he wants about it when an HOH not on their side wins, and he can just say, "Well, you better do what I want, or I'm just going to change it."
Yeah.
And I think the also when Matt Hoffman won the Diamond POV back in BB12, he was not allowed to tell anyone about it. That's a huge thing
Mhm.
because then he couldn't even use it as a bargaining tool. He just had to, after the fact, do change the nominee. And so I think that if all of those rules and regulations and time that he could use it were the same as it was back in BB12, I would have not a huge problem with it. I just think now it's way too powerful. I'm glad that at least Devens was the one who won it because I think that he is a showman and he will want to do this and use it in the most dramatic way possible. So I'm excited to see that because I think it will be a fun moment. Devens tends to do a good job at making those fun moments for us. I just, I wish that it was a little bit less powerful.
Yeah, I'm seeing people compare it to an actual immunity idol from Survivor
Yep.
because essentially it's keeping him safe for a long time. So, I mean, if he uses it right, and obviously this doesn't have to be put up, or he is put up and then takes himself off, like he has that power to do that. So, it's gonna be
But at
interesting
least
to
with the
see.
idol, he can only save himself. The idol
Yeah,
doesn't allow him to choose who goes home in his
that's true.
place. He can't
Yeah.
change everybody's votes to someone else. This is as if basically he got to not only save himself, but then whoever voted for him, he got to like change their vote to a specific person.
Yeah, that's true. So,
So
yep, it's powerful, and I'm happy that Devins has it though.
I am happy that Devens has it. I think that he will, of everybody there, maybe not, maybe Angela would have also, but I think that Devens will make it very fun.
Yes, I agree. And the only person he tells about this power is Dee. So he decides to just keep it between the two of them. It doesn't tell Angela or anyone else. So, what did you think about this and their conversation about him admitting he has the power?
This I thought was very interesting because I would have expected him to tell Angela and Dee about this. And the fact that he only tells Dee really shows me how close Devens and Dee are. And that they do, I think, really still view Angela as their third. That they are final two, they are closest with each other. And that this isn't an equal trio. I wonder if eventually Devens decides to use this and Angela finds out that Devens didn't tell her about it. I wonder if she'll be upset and feel a certain type of way. She has said on the feeds, I think yesterday, that she was like, I think Devens has it, and I'm actually glad he didn't tell me about it because I don't want to know. Like, he's actually trying to
Yeah.
protect me. I wonder if that's a little bit of coping on her part and like trying to rationalize with herself why Devens would have it and not tell her. I do wonder in practice though, when that comes out, if she will still feel that same way or if she will kind of get paranoid that maybe he doesn't trust her.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good point because I feel like as of now, like, yeah, she's like, oh, it's okay. Like, if he has it, like, that's fine. He's not telling me. But I think when it does come down to it, like, she will be upset that he kept it from her. And maybe, and I don't know if Dee would do this, but especially if Dee would be the one to like confirm it to Angela and not even Devens telling Angela, like, I think that would also just not sit right for Angela if she finds out not from Devens himself. So, it'll be interesting to see how that all unfolds.
Well, and I think it'll be interesting if she finds out that Dee knew about it the whole
Yeah.
time and she also didn't tell her. And I know that like Dee could say like, look, it wasn't my place. It was Devin's power and he told me, but it's not my place to tell anyone else about it. But I that I think like maybe right now Angela is okay with it because she felt like he wasn't telling anyone. But if she finds out
Yeah.
that Dee also knew and that they both hid that from her, I do think that that could really make her feel a certain type of way and get her paranoid that she can't trust them. And then we'll at that point we'll really see classic Angela.
Yep, for sure. So lots to come more from that. We have 6 weeks of potential of this being used. But then, as we also kind of alluded to this, then Drew does convince Kamu to make Jason a replacement nom instead of putting him up now. So then he has to tell Lyric that he has to put her up as a pawn now on the block. So, what did you think about this?
Yeah, I think that this was the right move. I mean, in a similar way to the way that you don't want to give Rome a chance to win the POV, you also don't want to give Jason that opportunity. They saw how, well, they actually don't know how incredibly well he did the blockbuster because they can't watch it, although I think that's dumb. But I think that they know that he's won two competitions now, technically. So he certainly has the capability to win a veto. And I mean, on the feeds, I guess we'll just kind of get into feed spoilers. Jason was chosen for veto, but did not win. And so they, even though they didn't put him on the block originally, they may as well have because he got chosen anyways. So he I think it was a smart move to try to prevent that, even though it didn't work out in the
Yeah, agreed. So yeah, the final nominees were Mallory, Lala, and Lyric. But then, as you're saying in the feed for the POV, Jason was chosen but did not end up winning it. But Lyric does win the power veto, so she will obviously take herself off. And then the plan is to put up Jason as the replacement nominee and then evict him if he does not win Blockbuster. So, what do you think about that plan?
I mean, I think it seems like it's gonna work out. If Jason doesn't win, I don't necessarily see that changing. As we are recording this, the big long-awaited tea party is happening, so I don't know what's happened. Do we should we live just kind of look
Yeah,
at Blue Sky here and
I wanna
see
see.
if anything. Okay, I'm okay. It sounds like things are happening. People are fighting. I don't know exactly what's happening, but it does seem like the plan was for Kamu to call out Jason during this tea party and just expose everything and make just ruin Jason's game. So it seems like I don't know exactly. It sounds like Kamu's doing a lot of talking. Why is this speech so long? Blah blah blah. So it sounds like nobody's had a chance to talk except Kamu so far. So as soon as
Okay.
we are done recording here, we will go watch that and see what we're missing. But we will get into all of it, whatever happened. We'll talk about it next week. Don't you worry.
Yeah. I know it's gonna be drama, I'm sure, and I'll be sad to see Jason go though because I really love seeing him and the drama, obviously that's happened with him there, and I feel like we'll miss some excitement with it, without him if he does get
I
sent home.
agree. I agree. I think that Jason, in a lot of ways, is losing Jason is kind of be like losing Jimmy early on BB27. Like it
Yeah.
didn't really hurt the season, I don't think, but at the time, I think maybe some people were afraid that like, oh, Jimmy was the one person, like and people were criticizing Jimmy's drama for being too scripted and prepared and whatever. But he was giving us some entertainment while he was there, so I
Mhm.
think there's the same worry losing Jason early on in this season, but hopefully it will be similar to last year and we will get plenty of entertainment even if he does leave early on.
Yes. Agreed. Well, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I'm just excited to see this tea party.
I know. So now we really do have to wrap up so we can watch the tea party. But thank you so much for listening, everyone. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts and follow us on social media at Let's Chat Reality. And we'll be chatting with you all again next week on More Big Brother. Thanks so much for listening.
Bye, everyone.